Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to all the devotees for this exclusive question answer session. I already have some few questions from the previous week. I will begin by answering them. You can send more questions through live chat and I will try to answer as many as possible in the next 1 hour. So here is the first question. What is Akala Mrityu? How Charanamrit helps to avoid Akala Mrityu? Akala Mrityu means untimely death. Untimely means we have got a certain lifespan based on our past karma at the time of birth. So our duration of life is fixed at the time of birth in the particular body. But during the course of living in this present body, if we perform very, very sinful activities, then our lifespan goes on reducing. And for very, very sinful people, the lifespan can be reduced so much so that they will die very, very early. Very early. The example is given in the Mahabharata that the Kauravas, they died untimely because they insulted the most chaste lady, Draupadi. So they all died untimely, Akala Mrityu. They died young. And how Charanamrit helps to avoid Akala Mrityu? Charanamrit is the water that washes the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, especially in the form of the deity. And that Charanamrit, that water that washes the lotus feet of the Lord, the deity form, that if somebody takes, then it can, one can avoid untimely death, because accidentally, if we have done some sinful activities unknowingly, then this Charanamrit will nullify all those reactions, or will nullify the reactions. So we can avoid Akala Mrityu by taking Charanamrit. Of course, this applies only to devotees. It doesn't apply to non-devotees. Non-devotees cannot think that I can go on doing sinful activities and I take Charanamrit and I become free from the sinful reactions. That doesn't work. It is not a mechanical way of nullifying sinful reactions for some professional people who keep on committing sins. It doesn't work like that. It is only for devotees who are careful to avoid sinful activities, but accidentally, if they have done some sin, then those accidental sinful reactions are reactions to accidental sinful activities unknowingly done are completely nullified by Charanamrit. Next part of the same question. Did demigods become free from Mrityu after drinking nectar after churning? Yeah, the demigods and the demons, they together churned the ocean of milk to produce Amrita. And that Amrita was meant to free them from the same thing, Akala Mrityu. Because they have a very long lifespan compared to human beings on the earth. So for them, Akala Mrityu means it is very, very, very short life then. They'll be able to live only very short span. So therefore, for them, it is more important that they avoid akala mrityu. So therefore, for them, that nectar they produced is helpful for them to avoid akala mrityu. Because ultimately, nobody can be deathless in the material world, including Lord Brahma. Brahma's lifespan is the entire duration of the whole universe. Brahma lives for 311 trillion years according to our calculation. So it's a fantastic long lifespan. We can't even imagine what that lifespan is. But even Brahma is afraid of death. And his perception of time is different. His day, duration of his day is 1,000 Mahayugas according to our calculation on the earth. 1,000 Mahayugas. That comes to some 40 billion years in our time scale. He's just his day. So he lives his 100 years according to calculation of time on his planet. Time is relative on each planet. So Brahma also has to die, and the whole universe will be destroyed at the end of Brahma's life. Whole universe will be destroyed. So everybody has to die. So the soul is deathless. Soul is amritatvaya kalpate. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains soul is deathless. Soul has no death. Soul means the real person, you, I, each of the persons inside the body. So body has to die. Body has to die. So death means death of the body, not of the soul. Next question. What is meant by Shakabda or Gaurabda? There are different systems of calculating the preparing the calendar. You see, when we say Gaurabda, Gauranga Mahaprabhu or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, that is counted as the first year, and beginning that time, beginning the calculation from the appearance day of Lord Gauranga in this earth planet. Now we would have completed some 500 and say 20 years or something like that. So that is Gaurabda. And Shakabda is another calculation, Shaka era. So the Shaka era is a little different than the Gregorian calendar we are using, like now 2022. So this Shakabda is a little different. It is another calculation beginning from another certain starting point. So there are different calculations like this according to the beginning, what is taken as a reference as beginning. Otherwise, time is cyclical. You see, after day there is night, after night there is another day, and certain number of days constitute a week, and then certain number of weeks constitute a month, certain number of months constitute a season, then there are years, then there are cycles of these years, samvatsara. 60 years constitutes one's complete cycle of samvatsara. Like that, there are so many different technical details if you want to get into this whole calendar. Of course, the Vedic calendar is very, very scientific and very, very nicely done. In the Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, 11th chapter, there is a whole description of the calculation of time according to our Vedic time measurement. Atomic time to universal time. That's what is given in the Bhagavatam. Universal time is the time of duration of the whole universe or Brahma's lifespan. As I said, according to our calculation, it is 311 trillion years. And atomic time is very, 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 very smallest division of time. Smallest division of time. So this whole calculation is given in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 11th chapter. The calculation of time. It's given. You can refer that and try to understand from that. Next question. When it is told that stool of cow is pure, does it apply for bull as well? Now, as regards the use of cow dung for manure, for as a fuel, for generating biogas, all those purposes, there is no difference between cow dung and bull dung. It's the same. But when it comes to using this cow dung for purposes of worshipping, for purposes of preparing Charanamrit, for Abhishek, only cow urine and cow dung is used, not any other thing. It's not. Otherwise, there's no difference. So if we chemically analyze, there's no difference. But the purposes of Vedic sacrifices, for the purpose of Panchamrit or Panchagavya, we say Panchagavya, we do Abhishek of the deity. So that only cow urine and cow dung is used, not any other bull's urine or dung like that. No. Next question. If I have developed love of God but not following the rules and regulations given by Prabhupada, like tea, coffee, gambling, then what will be the result? See, developing love of God is after one has become purified of all sinful reactions. It necessarily is after that. So there is no question of somebody being sinful at the same time developing love of God. It doesn't work like that. See, love of God is a stage after purification, complete purification of the consciousness or the heart. Complete purification. 100% pure. Only they can actually properly do devotional service. See, pure devotional service is possible to be rendered by anybody who has completely purified the heart of all sinful reactions and has become free from sinful life. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that describes this. Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavvrataha. This bhajante mam dridavvrataha, Krishna says, one is able to render devotional service with great determination and becomes free from all dualities of this material existence. Dvandva moha, becomes free from illusion only when they have become 100% free from all sinful activities. 100% free. Antagatam papam. And completely engaged 100% in devotional activities. Devotional activities. Exclusively engaged in devotional activities. That is the symptom of a pure devotee. It's a symptom of a pure devotee. So love of God is meant for pure devotees, not meant for anybody else. Of course, there's no bar. Anybody can follow the principles of Krishna consciousness and become completely purified. It is possible. Nobody is ineligible. But as long as one is sinful, one cannot even approach God, what to speak of loving God. As long as one is sinful, one cannot even approach God. God remains completely unknown, totally unknown for the sinful people. Next question. Can we chant without applying tilak? Yes, you can chant without applying tilak. Now, tilak applying tilak and so many other aspects of bhakti, practice of bhakti, are meant to enhance the progress of your devotional service very rapidly. It is just like all the other activities apart from chanting, which we do in devotional service. They are all meant to accelerate our progress, make us fixed up, make us very much enthusiastic, you see, like that. Now, what is tilak? Let's try to understand this, then you will appreciate better the answer what I'm saying. Now, tilak is sacred clay which is sourced from the banks of holy rivers or some particular holy places where the Lord performed his pastimes, or great pure devotees, acharyas, they performed their devotional activities. Such places, the clay is called tilak. And that tilak we apply to sanctify our body, to remind ourselves of Krishna, and to also spiritualize our entire body, to spiritualize our body. Because such clay from the banks of holy rivers and from such other holy places is actually containing the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna and the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotees. That has got a lot of spiritual potency. So for that spiritual potency, how will that spiritual potency act? When I apply tilak on my forehead or on 12 different parts of the body, then I become purified of sinful reactions, and my devotional service is made more potent. Obstacles to devotional service are removed. My enthusiasm increases to do devotional service. I'll be able to overcome so many obstacles like that. So it is only going to enhance the effect of your chanting. The spiritual effect will be enhanced if you apply tilak and then chant Hare Krishna. Next question. What is the significance of Shaligram worship in a devotee's life? Shaligram is a special manifestation, incarnation of the Supreme Lord in this material world. It's actually a piece of stone, but it has got certain marks on it. Those marks are naturally formed. It is not that somebody carves the stone and prepares the Shaligram. No, it is naturally formed. And depending on the mark, the Shaligram is identified as a Narayan Shaligram or a Narsimha Shaligram or a Krishna Shaligram or a Sudarshan Shaligram, like that. So the Shaligram is to be worshipped by those who are Brahmanas by qualification. A Brahmana will not eat anything without offering that whatever is prepared to the Supreme Lord. So the significant Shaligram is there is no need to install this Shaligram. No need to invoke the presence of the Supreme Lord in the Shaligram. The Lord eternally resides in the form of the Shaligram. So there is no prana pratishtha, there is no ritual necessary for inviting the Lord to reside in a particular piece of stone. No need. Whereas if we make a deity, carve out a deity from wood or stone or cast a deity in the form of metal. Then we have to do the purification. Then we have to invite the Lord according to the procedure mentioned in the scriptures, Agama Shastra. And the Lord has to be worshipped according to the rules and regulations given in the scriptures. Of course, with Shaligram worship also there are rules, but very, very, very simple. Shaligram worship is very simple. Shaligram worship requires a little water and tulsi leaf. In fact, there is a verse in the Gautama Tantra that tulsi dalamatrena jalasya chulakenava vikrinete swamatmanam bhaktebhyo bhaktavatsalaha. If somebody worships Saligram with devotion, they need only offer one tulsi leaf and a palmful of water. That's all. Then the Supreme Lord is so very pleased with such a offering that the Lord thinks he has nothing to give his devotee who has worshipped him in this way. And therefore the Lord offers himself to the devotee. Vikrinete swamatmana. He becomes purchased by the devotee. He becomes a property of the devotee. So that is the importance of worshipping Saligram. Why is there no focus on this in Grahastha life in Gaudiya Vaishnavism? Because Grahastha life, people are, as it is, they have so much difficulty in even chanting Hare Krishna certain number of rounds, because they become very, very busy with so many other family duties or professional responsibilities, etc. Therefore, that is not so much recommended. So, Grahasthas are advised to chant Hare Krishna and read or hear from the scriptures, from the books written by Srila Prabhupada. Like that is given importance, because in worshipping Shaligram Shila or a deity of Krishna, there are so many considerations of offense. In deity worship, there is 64 offenses that one may commit. In chanting Hare Krishna, there is only consideration of 10 offenses. So, chanting Hare Krishna is much, much, much more simpler and feasible. For chanting Hare Krishna, one can do it in case one is unable to take a bath during exceptional circumstances. One can still chant Hare Krishna and get the spiritual benefit. But one cannot worship the Saligram Shila or the deity of the Lord without taking a bath. See? So there are differences. That's why the stress is given for chanting Hare Krishna. The stress is given for chanting Hare Krishna. In this age particularly, stress is given for chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting and hearing Hare Krishna, or chanting and hearing the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, like that. Can women worship Saligram Shila if they are single and dedicated to the Lord? Saligram Shila is not worshipped by women. Saligram Shila is not worshipped by women. But the deity can be worshipped by women who are properly guided by a spiritual master, guided by other dedicated devotees. They can worship a deity. Next question. A devotee suffering from insomnia cannot attend the morning program. Consciousness naturally comes down. What to do to have good sadhana? Now, insomnia itself can be solved very easily for those who are devotees by lying down on the bed at the time when normally everybody else goes to sleep at night, and simply chanting Hare Krishna softly. It works. It definitely works. There is no doubt about it. So anybody suffering from insomnia, especially devotees, I'm telling this for devotees, that you simply have to chant even while lying down at night when you're not able to get sleep. You simply have to chant softly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And I have recommended this to many different people since so many decades now. And I have not heard anybody who has come back to me and said it doesn't work for them. So there is no need to worry about insomnia for devotees. You see. So once this insomnia problem is solved, then naturally you will be able to have freshness in the morning after getting a proper sleep at night. The body requires sleep. A certain amount of sleep is required. As long as this material body is there, we have to give some proper rest, and best is to give it rest at night. Under exceptional circumstances, one may also have to give some rest in the afternoon for somebody who's sick or somebody who's old or somebody who's having some particular health issue. Then they may have to give some rest at afternoon also. But otherwise, generally rest is given in the night. And that also, that rest in the night is essential for the proper functioning of the body. So very easily this can be solved for devotees by simply chanting softly Hare Krishna at night while lying on the bed. Next question. Are criticism and fault finding with respect to mundane people, not devotees, sinful? Actually, sinful reactions is not just for applicable against devotees. It is applicable against anyone. Just like when we are walking on the road, supposing I accidentally stamp on an ant, I have killed that ant. That is sinful. That is sinful. So I get a sinful reaction because of that. So therefore, sin is not just with respect to devotees. Sin is with respect to any living creature. Any living creature. So definitely criticizing and fault finding with respect to people who are not devotees is also sinful. Of course, the degree of sin is not the same, never the same. Degree of sin is never the same, but it is sinful. So one should avoid. A ideal devotee will not criticize anyone, will not fault find, will not do any harm to even an ant. So that is the characteristic of a devotee. Next part of the same question. What are the punishments mentioned in the scriptures for such activities? There are a lot of details of these punishments. We just understand that we should not commit sin, and we try to avoid sin as far as possible. But accidentally, inadvertently, unknowingly, somehow we commit some sin. Krishna says, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Because in this material world, while living in this material world, accidentally, unintentionally, somehow we may commit some sin. Krishna will actually purify us, will pardon us, purify us completely when we are doing the devotional service according to the rules and regulations. And we surrender to Krishna by accepting shelter of his lotus feet and following his instructions and directions. even in the Bhagavad Gita. Then Krishna says, I will pardon such a person and completely free that person from sinful reactions. Next question. Can you please throw some light on Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya? How was Lord Gauranga or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu born and how did he build this particular Sampradaya? This Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, as the name indicates, begins from Brahma at the beginning of creation, who's the Acharya of this Sampradaya, the first Acharya after Krishna. So then Madhvacharya actually sometime in the 13th century, he appeared and he actually he wrote a explanation for the Vedanta Sutra, explaining it according to the Vaishnava principles, the Vaishnava philosophy. And he also revived the practice of devotional service according to the strict scriptural directions. So he has written a lot of books and he has taught how to do deity worship. He has initiated so many thousands and thousands and thousands of people. He traveled all over the country. So from him, a specific lineage is coming that's called Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. Then later on, sometime in the 15th century or 14th century, I would say, there was one Acharya, Madhavendra Puri. So he taught the practice of devotional service leading to this love of Godhead, leading to love of Godhead. So the element of Krishna Prema in practice of bhakti, advanced practice of devotional service, that was taught by Madhavendra Puri in this Sampradaya. Madhavendra Puri accepted Diksha from a pure devotee in the Madhva Sampradaya. So therefore, from Madhavendra Puri, this line continues as Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Gaudiya means, it specifically refers to Gauda Desha, that is Bengal, Orissa, and that region. So that's called Gauda Desha, and therefore Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Lord Chaitanya was born as the son of two pure devotees, Jagannath Mishra and Chachi Mata, Chachi Devi. But he accepted Diksha from Madhavendra Puri's disciple by name Ishwara Puri. So he accepted disciple because he appeared as a devotee. He wanted to teach how we should practice devotional service as a devotee. He himself taught by taking the position of a devotee. So, therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed his followers to write books explaining the specific practice of devotional service centered around chanting and hearing Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he taught his disciples and followers to practice and also explain the significance of chanting and hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, and particularly studying these two scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which is giving the essence of all the Vedic literature for us in Kali Yuga, and explaining particularly pure devotional service centered around chanting and hearing the Hare Krishna. Next question. When we happen to meet some people, they keep on talking about mundane things. How to handle that situation? Now, if you study Srila Prabhupada's conversations, any conversation, Srila Prabhupada would turn it into a discussion about Krishna consciousness. Why? Because everything in this material world has a relationship with Krishna. If we study the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how he is present in this material world in so many different forms. Arjuna's specific question in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is, I'll read that question. In the 17th verse of the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is asking this question. How should I meditate on you? In what various forms are you to be contemplated, O blessed Lord? Katham vidyamaham yogin tvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. So Srila Prabhupada explains that Arjuna is thinking specifically about the common man. The scriptures say Krishna is present everywhere in this material world. But how does a common man realize the presence of Krishna everywhere in the material world? How does he realize that? So Arjuna is asking Krishna, a common man, if he has to think always about Krishna, what form, particular form of Krishna can he think? So particularly, Prabhupada is telling, a common man who has no love for Krishna cannot always think of Krishna. Therefore, he has to think materially. So Arjuna is considering the mode of thinking for the materialistic persons of this world. So materialists cannot understand Krishna spiritually. They are advised to concentrate the mind on physical things and try to see how Krishna is manifested by physical representations. So Krishna begins to describe that he is present in the heart of every living being as Paramatma. So whether we see one ant, or whether we see one insect, or whether we see an animal, we see a dog, or we see a cat, or we see so many different human beings, we see any living being, any plant, any tree, any grass, immediately we should identify that in this living being, in the heart of the living being, Krishna is present as Paramatma. So Krishna first of all tells Arjuna, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhuta Shayastita. I am seated in the hearts of all creatures as the Super Soul. So, Krishna, how many living beings are there? There are millions and billions and trillions. We can't even count. Impossible to count. And how many varieties? Anywhere you go, you see some variety of living being. Even if you go to a place where there are no people, no human beings, there will be some insects, some grass, some tree, or some spider, or some mosquito, or some worms, or some germs, or some tiny microbes. So in all of their hearts, Krishna is present as Paramatma. So whenever you see life symptoms, living organism, immediately you recognize the presence of Krishna in their heart. Like this, Krishna explains, I am the light of the sun. See, everybody has experience of sunlight. Daytime means sunlight. Even when the sun is covered by cloud, there is some sunlight. It doesn't become completely pitch dark like at night. Daytime means there is some light. Sunlight is there. So whenever we see sunlight, we recognize that sunlight itself as a representation of Krishna in the material world. So immediately we are reminded of Krishna. We can experience the presence of Krishna in the form of sunlight, moonlight, and among the stars, Krishna says, I am the moon. Among the senses, I am the mind. So like that, Krishna's representation is there in every species, in every category of things, everywhere Krishna's representation is there. So in this way, we can always think of Krishna, always connect something with Krishna consciousness. So a devotee understands Krishna's presence everywhere and Krishna's relationship. Ultimately, Krishna is the source of everything. So nothing can be disconnected from Krishna. Nothing can be disconnected from Krishna. Krishna says in the 4th chapter also, I am the source of everyone. Every living being is my part and parcel. They belong to me. They are part of me. They are mine. Krishna owns like that. So anybody we see, we understand we all have a common father, that is Krishna. So in that sense, we are, from the spiritual perspective, we are all related to each other as brothers and sisters, because we have the common father, Krishna. Nobody is an outsider. You see? So in this way, you please study 10th chapter Bhagavad Gita and then try to understand Krishna's presence. And then you can learn to connect everything with Krishna. So any discussion, any talk about ordinary things also can be connected with Krishna. Next question, how to understand Jainism versus Buddhism versus Monism? Now, anything other than Krishna consciousness is an incomplete understanding of God. Whether it is Jainism or Buddhism or Monism or any other system. Because only in Krishna consciousness, from the Bhagavad Gita and from the Bhagavatam, from the Acharyas, Vaishnava Acharyas, we have scientific knowledge of who is God as the supreme person, the ultimate source of everyone and everything. And the other religious systems, more or less, we can say, it is universally true that they have taken some principles and highlighted them according to time, place, circumstances. Just like Jainism and Buddhism highlight very much ahimsa, non-violence. Now that was required because people had become very, 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 very violent. Especially when Buddha came, there was so much animal killing going on in the name of Vedas, the name of doing Vedic sacrifices. There's a provision in the original scriptures, Vedic scriptures, for doing Vedic sacrifice by sacrificing an animal. But it cannot be done indiscriminately as people were doing before the advent of Buddha. So to stop this animal killing in the name of Vedas, Buddha appeared. Buddha is an incarnation, the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So he appeared to stop this. Similarly, Jainism also, it is stressing very much on ahimsa. So much stress on ahimsa. Because unless people become compassionate towards other living beings, there is no question of spiritual life at all. One cannot be cruel towards other creatures, at the same time claim to be a devotee of God. Never. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 13th chapter, Krishna teaches us 20 items of knowledge. The first item he says, Amanitvam, Adamvitvam, Ahimsa. The third principle he teaches is ahimsa, non-violence. So ahimsa is very, very important for anybody who wants to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord, become a devotee or become a devoted soul. Is interested in spirituality. Ahimsa is absolutely essential. Absolutely essential. So those systems, they stress on this ahimsa. Similarly, monist philosophy is stressing on the fact that we are spiritual by nature and we are spirit soul different from the body. We are not the material body. Whereas the whole world, generally people think in terms of, I am this material body. They think I am product of matter. So Shankaracharya particularly stressed on this spiritual nature of the real being, the real person, every person. And he taught how to become detached from this material body and thereby get out of material entanglement. He stressed on that. But he did not teach the complete aspect of understanding the absolute truth as the personality of God. He only stressed on the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth called Brahman understanding. So that way, if you see, every bona fide religious system other than Krishna consciousness or Vaishnava philosophy, other than that, every other bona fide religious system is stressing on certain aspects of Krishna consciousness, preliminary aspects or even sometimes certain advanced aspects, whatever it may be. Whereas in Krishna consciousness, it is complete and perfect. Understanding of God, understanding of religious principles, understanding of the practice, understanding of what is most feasible, practical in this present age for our modern times, etc. Next question. What is the meaning of God helps those who help themselves? Now, in practicing the religious principles or Krishna consciousness as taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita and as actually taught by the acharyas who are pure devotees of Krishna, there are certain things we have to do from our side. And we should also learn dependence on Krishna for certain other things. Just like I have got certain duties to perform. Now I should do those duties, and for the result of those activities, I should completely depend on Krishna. I should understand I cannot do anything to produce the result by my own. So, when it comes to results, dependence on Krishna. When it comes to doing certain duties, I cannot say, Krishna, I am surrendered to you. I cannot do anything. You do everything for me and you give me the result. No, that's not going to work. So when it comes to taking God's help for solving any problem, certain things I have to do and certain things God will help us by taking care of those things from His side. Just like doing the particular duty and the result of doing that particular activity or action. So result is given by Krishna. Result is in Krishna's hands. And the duty is to be done by us. Just like we tell, please chant Hare Krishna. Now you cannot pray to Krishna and say, Krishna, you chant for me and you give me blessings. No. You have to chant, and then Krishna will bless you when you chant. See, so that is the spirit in which you understand God helps those who help themselves. So you help yourself by actually doing what Krishna is telling you to do. That is called helping yourself. Next question. Why do we fast on appearance and disappearance days of the Acharyas? Then specifically the Acharyas. The Acharyas' appearance and disappearance in this world are completely transcendental. They are not appearing or disappearing by force of karma. The term appearance is used for birth, what we ordinarily call as birthday, and disappearance is a term that is used when somebody dies. Of course, the person doesn't die; it's only the body which is terminated at the time of death. The soul leaves the body. But the Acharya's appearance and disappearance is not by force of karma. They don't have any material desires to be fulfilled because of which they have to take birth. No. They come only for the purpose of preaching Krishna consciousness, teaching Krishna consciousness as the representative of Krishna. They are pure representatives of Krishna. So therefore, their appearance and disappearance is very, very, very significant. What is our benefit if we worship the Acharya on the appearance and disappearance especially? Of course, we should worship the Acharyas every day. Acharyo Upasanam, that's given as one of the items of knowledge in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Daily worship is required. But even if somebody is not able to worship daily, especially on the day of their appearance and disappearance, if we remember them, if we remember their teachings, if we worship them, we seek their blessings, then that is very, 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 very powerful, very potent in helping us to advance in Krishna consciousness very rapidly. Very rapidly we can advance. In addition to chanting Hare Krishna, there are so many other recommendations for accelerating our progress in Krishna consciousness. So this is one of them. Appearance and disappearance. We observe fasting. Fasting is to actually focus our mind, our attention, give our time exclusively for devotional service, for worship of the Acharya, for remembering his teachings, for hearing about his glories, his contribution, his transcendental activities, like that. So fasting is particularly for saving time by minimizing the bodily demands. Fasting is like that. Our criticism and fault finding, they may have a factual basis. Now, criticism and fault finding can be done in a healthy way. Of course, criticism is not the right word. Pointing out a mistake or some fault in somebody to help them correct themselves, because they may not have noticed or they may not be able to realize the mistake. So, who has to do it? It has to be done by the proper person who has got the adhikara, the authority. Just like parents are natural authority for the children, for their children. The husband is the natural authority for the wife. The teacher is the natural authority for the student. The spiritual master, natural authority for the disciple. But acharyas are authorities for everyone, universal authority. Krishna is, of course, the supreme universal authority for every creature, for everyone in existence. But others according to their position of authority, they have a duty to correct. Just like a teacher must correct a student if a student makes mistake. Or parents should correct their children when the children make mistake. Or point out the faults in doing something which the children or the students may not notice or may do it unknowingly. Okay. So like that, factual basis means if somebody is actually doing a mistake, then the right authority has to be pointing it out. It's just like when we're driving on the road. Now, a traffic police person is the right authority to direct the traffic, to stop the traffic, to clear a traffic jam, etc. Now, if everybody else starts doing it, or anyone starts doing it, there'll be chaos, complete chaos. So only the proper person who's trained, who's knowledgeable, who is authorized, who's competent, has to do it. Then only it will be effective. It'll really work. It will be beneficial. Just like when we are driving, very naturally, if a traffic policeman is directing the traffic, everybody follows and there is smooth movement of traffic. Is it not? So similarly, anybody makes a mistake, then the right authorities have to correct. And they'll do it in such a way that it will be beneficial for the person who's being corrected. They know how to do it. They are also, sometimes it is said that some empowered persons, when they point out a fault, that pointing out the fault itself is the corrective measure for the person who's making the mistake. So that is empowerment. Empowerment is like that, especially empowerment by God, Krishna. So it is very, very effective. Next question. How to use the explanation of the banyan tree of Gita in regular preaching? Please give an example. The banyan tree is an analogy given in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita to explain that this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. Just like you see your reflection of your face in the mirror. Now, even though for an uninformed person, unintelligent person, it will look like when a person standing apart from you looks at you and looks at your image in the mirror, may foolishly think that there are two persons. But an intelligent person, one who knows the truth or the reality, understands the object and the image, though they look identical, but they are entirely different. Entirely different. They are not the same, identical in all respects. No. They look identical, but they are not. So, material world appears to be real, appears to be having some substance, but it is not substantial. Everything in the material world is constituted of the Panchabhuta, the five elements combined, whether it is our body, or it is stable, or it is any material object. Everything is constituted of the five elements. But are we able to see the five elements, or are we able to see it as simply some dead matter? No. We are not able to perceive it. So that is because we don't understand the origin. The origin. in the reflection, there are certain characteristics of a reflection that the appearance of the reflection can be giving you a clue of the actual appearance or the way it looks, the original object. But the reality is the original object, not the reflection. So, to experience reality, you have to move from the reflection to the original object. So, similarly, this material world, it gives a clue as to what is the spiritual world. But the defects in the material world do not exist in the spiritual existence or spiritual world. Do not exist in spiritual. There is no disease, there is no old age, there is no death in the spiritual world. Because all the forms are spiritual, not material. Though the form may look like this human form, even Krishna's form for that matter, completely spiritual, but it looks like a human form. It's not a human form. It's not a material form at all. So similarly, even whatever else we see in the material world, it may look like real, but it's not real. So I'll stop here. Remaining questions I'll answer in the next week when we have a similar session, exclusive question and session, every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.